Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here, and today we're going to be discussing the Sword and Shield tier changes for the month of October. I hope everyone's doing well. Sorry that I didn't have much to upload the last day or two. Yesterday I put up a Nationals X video, but I was also hoping to get up an OU live, but don't worry, it's going to be coming in the next day or two. Just had some hectic stuff going on that I thankfully got all taken care of, so yeah, now we're back, and again try to get 1 to 2 quality videos up a day. So right now, let's discuss the Sword and Shield tier changes for October. There's a lot less you can see here than in prior months because things have finally begun to settle down, but that does not mean that there's any restraint being held at lower tiers like PU and ZU, who seem to be getting shafted quite a bit. But thankfully, the NU tier that got shafted last month, RU month before, UU the month prior to that, etc., have all slowed down a little bit. But there are still some relevant rises and drops that we can discuss. So let's go through them one by one. First and foremost, Jirachi rose from UUBL to OU. Personally, I think this is a reflection of some kind of shaky team building tactics being used in OU. People are getting paranoid about things like Nicholas, Clefable, Alakazam, etc. I don't feel like Jirachi is a tried and true OU Pokemon in my eyes. It doesn't really have any one set that's too great, and the Wish variants are very easy to manipulate, be it by Spikers, or by some bulky setup sweepers, or even by Pokemon that are more offensive like Dragapult or Shifu. And the more offensive sets, be it like mixed attacking or just a 4 attacks or like 3 attacks sub plus toxic type of sets, they are always walled by common Pokemon, and that undoubtedly holds them back, so you have to be really careful with how you approach them as well. However, it is still viable in OU, so I'm not shocked, but I mean, I guess it was UUBL anyway, so it does make a big difference. However, one Pokemon that does make a difference is Rhyperior, which not only is not usable in RU now, but also not usable in UU, which is interesting. It arguably is better in OU than it was in, say, UU, for example, though, and I think it's really interesting to see how it's going to develop. It's done nicely against things like Zeraora, Non-Giga Drain, Volcarona. It does very nicely against Rotom Heat as well, and it's just with Choice Band, it's an absolute wrecking ball, which Rob Jr. showcased for the first time in Week 1 of Smogon Snake Draft, and it's been catching on since then, and Swords Dance and or Stealth Rock sets are also superb as well, so you have to be really interested to see where that goes. Next off, there's Ryu Nicholas. Ryu Nicholas is also a great Pokemon in OU, but it actually rose to UUV usage, just reflecting how it's great. Future Sight sets, I'm sure Combine sets are viable as well. I've seen a Solvest, I've seen some Magikarp, your generator with its Solvest, yeah, but I think overall its solid option is a pretty decent amount of versatility, which can go a long way. And on top of that, I just think that it's a super practical option in the metagame right now. So yeah, I think it also has a chance to rise up to OU eventually if things hold. We'll have to wait and see. Following that, there's also Slowbro Galar, which is probably the biggest rise of the bunch. See, for a while now, Slowbro Galar has been like the best Pokemon, if not then one of the best Pokemon in RU. Arguably, Rotom Mo was before it ultimately rose to you, but now Slowbro Galar is also lost to you. So RU, every single month seems to be losing one of the faces of their tier while gaining things. But thankfully this time around, they really only gained Kindred, so I guess it's not that bad. But yeah, no, with that said, Slowbro Galar was really kind of necessary to check something this year. It's to be interesting to see how they respond, how it handles things and whatnot. Personally, I love the Nasty Plot sets. I love the Solfest set with Future Sight, and I think it was a really solid mount. And it's going to be hard to see the tier without it. Moving forward, or moving downward rather, Sigilyph, Toxicroak, and Vigavolt, Pokemon that were banned from the NU tier recently, all rose to RU, thus making their bans kind of irrelevant. But actually, Sigilyph is so good in RU that it's currently being suspected tested. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Definitely let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Personally, I think it should get banned, but yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. And finally, 2 grass types rising a little bit. Decidueye from NU to RU, which is interesting as it was a pretty good NU option, and Tangela all the way from PU to RU, which is unfortunate as I like using grass types in NU quite a bit, and we just lost 2 of them, but that is okay. It's fine, especially since we're not using grass types like, for example, Silvally Grass and Feral Suit, so maybe they'll see some more usage now. There are definitely still options, but yeah, it's fine. Anyway, as for the drops, Necrozma going from OU to UU isn't too surprising. It's kind of a flavor of the month type of breaker with the Meteor Beam set. It's still very viable, I think, with Rock Polish or Stealth Rock, but you gotta be careful with how you use it. It's definitely harder in a metagame full of Tyranitar and Blissey, so yeah, no, there are some pros and cons there. In addition to that, other things dropped as well, such as Kindred from UU to RU. It really just never got on in UU. It actually sees probably more usage in OU than UU due to it being close to staple status and rankings. Regardless of that, it's still pretty solid, so we'll see how it does in RU. Last generation, I believe, was really good in RU. I think it might have gotten banned in RU, actually. The Sniper set, yeah. As for NU, it actually gained 2 very interesting and even new faces in Escavalier and Snorlax Scavaliers ranged all the way from an OU staple over generations to more of a UU and now RU Pokemon, but now it's jumping all the way to NU, which is a new low for it. And as for a Scavalier, I mean, it's kind of been an RU staple for all the generations it's been, and even seeing some times where it saw decent UU usage as well, but now it's finally dropping to NU, and that's kind of crazy. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, but yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Next up, we have NU to PUBL, meaning these Pokemon were NU, but didn't quite see enough usage, and now they're falling back to PU, but they're already banned in PU, so therefore PUBL is where they shall reside, and that is Kangaskhan and Rotom Frost, both dynamic offensive options. Kangaskhan with Scrappy, Double Edge, and then some coverage / priority moves, and as for Rotom Frost, it's just a great heavy-duty boost pivot, breaker, nasty plot, scarf, defog, whatever you want to do with it, it definitely can work, so yeah. And then PU, arguably the tier hit the most with these tier shifts, gained a whole plethora of Pokemon from NU. I believe it's over a dozen Pokemon, as you can see right in front of you. Alchemy is the first one, going to give it a nice, versatile offensive fairy type. It can also serve some defensive roles, Avalugg being one of, if not the best defensive walls in the game, but fortunately it's fairly one-dimensional. Corsola Galar, I mean, it's just kind of a pedestrian style threat, etc. I guess it'll wall some things, but once you get knocked off or people catch on to it, it's just going to be pretty mediocre. Cramorant, I was never too huge in it, but I think it's been seeing some usage in NU recently, so I'm a little surprised to see it drop. But with that said, it's still a pretty solid option. Yeah, Corsola itself, really a solid Pokemon. I think it's going to be very strong in PU. Ferroseed, going to give him Spiker, that's nice. Galvantula, a dynamic special attacker, electric type with Sticky Web. Speaking of a dynamic electric type special attackers, we're also going to see Jolteon and the electric train setter with spikes and toxic spikes Pinkerch and also fall. Speaking of Spikers, they're also going to be getting Quillfish, which is very interesting. I thought it might hang on to its NU usage, but it seems not. And if you are a stall enthusiast, not only do you get Avalugg and Ferroseed, and potentially a utility Silvally or a Quillfish, you also receive Quagsire, which is a great addition to PU stall teams due to Unaware. Runerigus is a stealth rock setter with nice round plus ghost stab that's unfortunately been overshadowed in RU and now in NU, so it's going to be interesting to see how it fares in PU. And last, but certainly not least, on top of the aforementioned Silvally, there's also Sock, which is undoubtedly going to be broken in the PU tier in my eyes. It's going to be such a dynamic physical attacker with a lot of great moves and Choice Band, Choice Scarf, or Heavy Duty Boots with Sturdy, whatever you might have it. It's just going to be really too strong for the tier, I feel. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. As for ZU, they got the Lycanroc form, the Meowstic forms, Politoed, and Wigglytuff. I guess Wigglytuff could be cool as a Wish Passer. I'm not too familiar with ZU, though. Lycanroc might be a good breaker. Meowstic forms are just kind of cheesy Pokemon, and Politoed probably more of like a special wall with Water Absorb, I suppose. There's utility moves like Encore and Perish Song, which could be cool, but nothing over the top. So, yeah, overall, nothing too crazy, but it's going to be interesting to see how PU develops all these new threats. I imagine quite a few of them will be tier staples, and maybe one or two of them might even drop to ZU next. Well, I guess next month not really happening because DLC 2 drops, but yeah. So definitely let me know your thoughts on these. We're also going to shift to some usage trends really quickly, so give me a second. Alright, my bad about that. Sorry, we're back. Now we're going to be discussing the Sword and Shield OU usage stats for the month of September. I always try and go through OU, and then I'll also go through the graphic with all the lower tiers, although, again, I'm a bit less familiar with those besides maybe RU and NU nowadays. But yeah, now something that stands out to me right off the bat, 4 of the top 5 Pokemon and 7 of the top 10 Pokemon are offensive Pokemon, and you'll notice that of these, 3 of the offensive Pokemon are rising in usage, and on top of that, almost all of the defensive Pokemon besides Corviknight are dropping in usage. So I think this is a sign of great things to come. Ever since we were able to kind of remove things like Magearna from the metagame and handle Cinderace, I think it's really kind of slowly but surely become a better metagame, and I don't think it's perfect. I think it's a far cry from perfect, in fact. I really wish that we could suspect and ban Urshifu. I feel like it forces Clefable on the team. For example, if we remove Urshifu and all of a sudden Clefable, maybe, drops a little bit in usage. We see more, bulky offensive teams, and that's really what we're missing, because we're seeing a lot of, straight offense, and we're seeing a lot of balance, and Stall has seen such a massive decline recently, but, yeah, I wish we could see more bulky offense, and I think that'd be really cool. Some other things to note, though, yeah, Clefable's actually seeing less usage, which is cool, but I've seen more usage in tournaments, so it's kind of a moot point. Rillaboom and Dragapult being in the top 3 is always nice to see. They're very dynamic offensive Pokemon. I also like seeing Zeraora in the top 10 still, pretty handily as well, and Magnezone rising up to the top 10 is a great thing for the tier in my eyes. It's a very dynamic offensive Pokemon. It punishes defensive cores and also punches Corviknight. I feel like it's one of the best Pokemon right now. It's funny that Cinderace would have been top 12, and it was only in the tier for a couple weeks. But yeah, no, that definitely would have been in the top 3 probably of usage if it was in the tier of the fall month. It's kind of funny. With that said, it's also great seeing Aegislash, Tyranitar, and Kommo-o hang on to spots in the top 20. Again, I just think we're seeing a lot more offensive Pokemon rise up. Blissey, a Pokemon that was undoubtedly one of the top 10, even though usage and definitely viability before. Now it's more of a fringe top 15 option, which this usage reflects. Amoonguss hanging in there and slowly eroding away the Toxpex usage. I mean, in tournaments, we actually see more and more Amoonguss than Toxics right now, which I think is a healthy thing. I think it shows that, Toxic doesn't actually counter many things. I mean, look, Rillaboom, Choice Band decimates it. Dragapult, FD Stats is really in trouble. Urshifu kills it. Drill handles it. Zeraora handles it. Psychic Flow, Corona handles it. Magnezone handles it. Like, you gotta slowly notice, guys, that the metagame, the tides are shifting against Pex, and I think that's a healthy kind of reactionary thing. I just think that what's really unhealthy is the fact that we have to use Clefable on so many teams, and I wish that wasn't the case. I wish we could get rid of Urshifu, and then we could see a lot more bulky offensive teams, but that's just my opinion. It's also cool seeing Kyurem and Rotom Heat round out the top, 22-ish, and I think Primarina and Azumarill, both of them kind of split each other's usage. I don't think either's too great. I think it'd make more sense if we saw things like Tangrowth, Crawdon in the top 25, but hey, that's just my opinion, and Hydreigon falling to number 34 is kind of crazy. I think it's a really good Pokemon, and I think that Rhyperior should be even higher than 39. Kind of surprised that Alakazam and Gengar are hanging on, but hey, here they are alongside Jirachi, 3 Pokemon that I'm not super high on right now, but definitely hold some reliability, so I guess it's nothing to be shocked about. And yeah, Torkoal is not in the top 40, but Pelipper is, which is interesting because I believe Sun is a bit better than Rain right now, but hey, it's kind of just like splitting hairs there. And yeah, so these are my thoughts in the top, roughly the top 40 in usage. You definitely let me know your thoughts. What do you think is very good? What do you think less so? And yeah, anyway, we're going to get to lower tier usage really quick now. 1 second. Okay, well, hopefully this is going to work. Oh, my bad. Hopefully it's going to work because my dimensions have been messing with me. But anyway, Ubers, I don't know crap about Ubers, just full disclosure. But the Zycon Crown seems to be, still crowned the king of Ubers. It definitely is seeing a bit of a decline in usage, but still north of 60%. It kind of is basically at staple status, I guess you could say. And Eternatus, Necrozma, Marshadow, and Ditto all hovering at or around 25%. Oh, I guess alongside Cinderace, which is actually tied with Ditto. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of the big six there. Lunala not far behind. So it's just showing, a lot of great offensive Uber Pokemon. Darmanitan, Galar, Dracovish, and Mewtwo round out the top 10. I'm kind of surprised to see Mewtwo just barely speaking in the top 10, but I don't know much about the tier, so I'm sure that people that main Ubers might have more to say in the comments, and if so, definitely enlighten me as to why Mewtwo is maybe not seen as much use as things like Darmanitan, Galar, and Dracovish, but I feel like Mewtwo is a more balanced option in the tier. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about the tier, so kind of speaking out of my you-know-what here, but hey, it's fine. Anyway, as for UU, we see Noivern top things off. That's not surprising. Zarude, which is a phenomenal addition to the tier alongside Slowbro, which also dropped recently. Both of them are thriving in the metagame, which is not surprising. Lycanroc Dusk, which recently got banned, also found a spot in the top 10 alongside tier favorites Keldeo, Incineroar, Weezing Galar, and surprisingly, not surprisingly, Cobalion, which is one of the best stealth rock setters and a great utility check to a number of things, but surprisingly Sylveon, which I feel has dropped quite a bit in usage in tournaments, but I suppose it's still a great staple Pokemon to kind of throw onto specific balance builds. Both the offensive builds is a Wish supporter and a Fairy type, so yeah, a lot of viability there. As for RU, we see Mantine, Klefki, Passimian, Slowbro, Galar, and Gardevoir in the top 5. Interesting to see Mantine top the usage right now. I kind of would have thought it would be Slowbro, Galar, honestly, but that's fine. Mantine does compress a lot of rolls, it checks a lot of things. Unfortunately, it does not check some of the other Pokemon we've seen in the top 10, such as Rhyperior and Heliolisk, but it can do nicely against specific sets of Gardevoir and Passimian, as well as defog away Klefki Spikes and Bronzong, Stealth Rock, but Bronzong can potentially retaliate with Toxic, you gotta be careful, but yeah, and also Delmise is just a really uncheckable beast in this tier, but unfortunately it's pretty slow, and it isn't the bulkiest. And last, but certainly not least, I want to mention Dragolgi's. It's a complete nuke. I mean, the heavy-duty boot set's great, specs is great, definitely try that out in RU for sure. Yeah, moving on to NU, a tier that I'm a bit more familiar with. This, really interesting to see the users this way. First off, only one Sylveon in the top 10 surprises me. I think Sylveon Dark should be over 12% usage for sure. But Ribombee being top dog and Whimsicott not being the top 10 is really surprising me. I think that both of them deserve to be top 10. I think Ribombee probably like 3 or 4, and Whimsicott close like 7, 8, but Mudsdale should absolutely be higher. It's the best stealth rock setter in the tier. Duraludon being number 2 in usage isn't shocking to me, but I kind of feel like the hype around it's died down. And finally, the Decidueye returns to RU, unfortunately, is not going to be there as an option anymore. So you might see more other grass or ghost types like Cofagrigus come back, or Ferroseed see more usage, which could be interesting. And a Ninjask at number 5 only shocks me. I feel like I see this every other game on the ladder. It's obviously a very dynamic and controversial Pokemon right now, and Ninetales really shouldn't be top 10. It's overrated, and Miltank is one of the better stealth rockers, alongside Sandslash Lola being one of the best glue Pokemon, so not surprised to see them in the top 10 either. Yep. As for PU, we see Sandslash and Drifblim and Pheasant and Stunfisk and Throw, and I don't really like this tier too much, honestly, but Sandslash is a great option. Provide Spike, Spin, Rocks, Knock, etc., you name it. Drifblim is also a very versatile Pokemon with offensive options, utility options, etc., you name it. I think Pheasant is pretty overrated, though, pretty crappy Pokemon. I feel like there's a couple things that walled on every team, even with the dismissal of Klinklang from the tier due to the ban recently. But with that said, it's still a solid option. Heavy duty boots, nice strong Brave Bird. Can even run Scar, potentially Stunfisk, great Stealth Rock setter. And Bro is arguably one of, if not the best Pokemon in the tier. So yeah, as for the second half, I'm not super familiar with any of these, but I feel like it's pretty hard not to build with Mala right now with the Klinklang ban, as it checks so many things. So that's intriguing as well. But yeah, no, let me know your thoughts on these. And finally, last but most certainly not least, we see LC, which again is starting to resemble the tier of last generation. We see Volibee, or Volibim, not sure to pronounce it, let me know in the comments. Mienfoo, Ponyard, Ferroseed, Abra, all staples from last generation alongside Onyx, Timber. I mean, and unless you see like, what is it called, Grookey, I believe? Grookey, then yeah, it's basically the same tier as last generation, minus Z move, so it's fine. I quite like LC right now. It's a fun tier. Definitely let me know your thoughts on it. And yeah, no, these are the usage stats for September. If you guys enjoyed playing in September, definitely let me know your thoughts what your favorite tier was in September. Let me know your thoughts on these usage stats and these shifts we alluded to before. Have a great day, guys, and peace out. All right, bye.